Hey there, LBC Bitesize. Good to see you again. We're still on this series of Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 to 19. This is the fifth part of it, and it's feet that are swift in running to evil. So as always, let's read the passage. These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil. That's what we're going to look at right now. A false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. So, this is what we're going to look at today. Feet that are swift in running to evil. This word swift, the root word of it comes from a liquid that flows easily. So it's all speaking about those that hurry into evil, those that aren't thinking, those that are just going at it. Like you've heard the whole phrase of it, like a headless chicken. This is what we're talking about. Feet that are swift in running to evil. A headless chicken, well, if you think about that as your actions, then you think about a foolish man, someone that isn't thinking, someone that isn't taking time out, someone that is rushing in. So in today's world, I think of Alton Towers, and I went to Alton Towers, it must be a couple of years ago now, and I went on a ride called Rita, and this ride went from 0 to 60 or 0 to 62.5 miles an hour in 2.5 seconds. It was very fast. Now, feet that are swift in running to evil. This is what I think of. I think of the ride Rita, and I think how fast it went from 0 to 60. There was no thinking about it. We were at the start line, then we were at the end line. That is something the Lord doesn't like. Feet that are swift, that are quick in running to evil. I think there's wisdom in taking time. But let's have a look what Isaiah says, because Isaiah speaks of those that are separated from God. In Isaiah chapter 59, verse 7 to 8. And he says, their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity. Wasting and destruction are in their paths. The way of the peace, or the way of peace, they have not known, and there is no justice in their ways. They have made themselves crooked paths. Whoever takes that way shall not know peace. Those that are quick, swift in running to evil, those are the type of people that will not know peace, the Bible says. There is a principle here about taking your time. There's something about taking your time. Now, if you think about 1 Timothy 5:22, when I was speaking to leaders, it says, do not lay hands on anyone hastily. Do not lay hands on anyone quickly. It also says, nor share in other people's sins, but keep yourselves pure. But it's that first part that says, don't be quick to lay hands on people. There's many reasons for that, but keeping it in a 10-minute bite size, we won't go off down that route. But the principle, don't be quick to lay hands on someone. You must take time. Take your time and then move at the appropriate time. James chapter 1 verse 19, it says, everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Again, there's a principle in taking your time, having a breath. You know, when you talk to someone that's always angry, if you was at school or something, I remember being a mentor in a school, and one of the things that I was always, encouraged to do with those kids that are angry is count to 10, although that makes them more angry. But the principle, what they're trying to do is just take your breath, take your time, take a step back. Let's survey the situation, have another look at it, and let's work through this wisely. Don't be quick into making a decision. Something I always say is, don't make permanent decisions based on temporary situations. The apostles, they took time They took time before appointing leaders. They would pray over things. They would fast through things before they appointed leaders. Jesus himself would go up onto the mountainside. He would take time out. It's a great example for us not to be swift in decision making, not to be swift in running to evil. And we'll get to that a little bit more in a few moments. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 11 says, have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. So here, this is something that we're saying, look, be quick to run away from it. Be swift in moving away from evil. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to pray about it. You don't need to take time out. If it's against God, run from it. I always use the example of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Well, Potiphar's wife tries it on with Joseph. Joseph says, I cannot have you. You are my master's wife. And even if you wasn't, one, I wouldn't sin against him. But two, I wouldn't sin against God. You see, he was quick to run in a different direction. When sin stares us in the face, run in a different direction. We spoke in church on Sunday, or a couple of Sundays ago, we spoke about sin. It lies at your door. It waits. It wants to master you. It says in Genesis that it crouches at your door. Well, that word for crouch is what they use for a wild animal that crouches, that lies down, ready to pounce on you. Because that's what sin wants to do. It wants to pounce on you. It wants to get hold of you. It wants to destroy you. It wants to take you from the path of righteousness. It wants to lead you away from God. But Genesis says you must master it. One bit of wisdom for us all is when sin stares us in the face, you can run in a different direction. You don't need to think about it. Psalm 119 verse 60 says, I made haste and did not delay to keep your commandments. The psalmist says, I didn't need to think about it. I didn't need to have a conversation with anyone about it. I didn't need to pray about it. I was quick to keep your commandments. Again, this is the right thing to be swift in running to. Going back to Proverbs chapter 6 verse 16 to 19, where it says, feet that are swift in running to evil, the Lord detests. He doesn't like at all. Feet that are swift from running from evil, the Lord would encourage all the more. Proverbs 14 verse 16 says, a wise man fears and departs from evil. That's what a wise man does. Not a boring man, not somebody that is being duped or someone that's been brainwashed. No, a wise man fears and departs from evil, but a fool rages and is self-confident. In other words, a fool just runs into it without any thought of what's going to happen, any thought of consequences or anything else. Sometimes we foolishly run into things that aren't wise and they're not of God. And yet our intention was never to run swiftly into evil, but our lack of wisdom has taken us now down that path. Now, why did Jesus never make these mistakes? Obviously, the great answer is he's God. He wouldn't make the mistakes, but he gives us the examples. What are the examples? He would take time out and seek the Father. Church, you must inquire of the Lord. You must inquire of God. Be wise in your decision making. Do not be swift in running to evil. Don't be swift into running to get rich schemes quickly. I tell you, they will lead you down the wrong path. Be wise in your decision making. Be wise in the things that you do, church. And one thing is for sure, you don't need to pray. If it's sin, you don't need to pray to ask God, is it okay to do or not? Run swiftly from it. One thing we don't want to do, though, is run swiftly to evil. Be wise. Many a time we find ourselves on that wrong path, not because we intentionally wanted to do wrong, but because we weren't wise to take a step back, to think about things, and literally do the principle that the Bible gives us when it says, do not lay hands on anyone hastily. Don't be too quick to do that, leaders. And church, let everyone be quick to listen, but slow to speak and slow to be angry. Why? Because this is wisdom from above. It's wisdom from heaven. Take a step back. Be quick to think of the things of God and not the things of this world. Be blessed, church, and I will see you soon.